Welcome back to Market to Market. Have you ever considered what could happen if your identity was stolen? Think it could never happen to you? Dianne Ojar-Ali, author of Mrs. Fraud and You, believes that the threat of identity theft is very real. Join me now as Dianne and I chat about the risk of identity theft and its impact on business. Dianne, tell us about yourself and what led to your decision to start writing Mrs. Fraud and You.
A little bit about myself. I'm actually originally from Trinidad, Cuba, as everyone knows. And I migrated to Toronto in 1987 when I got married, had my family. And I started working with the bank, one of the major banks here. And over the years, I had a service for myself. I was using it personally in 2006. And the more I used it, the more I saw there was a need for it. And there was a void as I was at the bank. And it's regarding identity theft. I met a friend a couple of years back, and we had a conversation about, different things in identity theft. And then in 2011 summer, I met with someone at an event and said, who would like to write a book? And he was actually the marketing guru behind The Secret. His name is Jerry Robert. And for fun, I said, sure, why not? After I got his business partner's book. And the next thing I know, I started to write. Now, it was a fun project, not what I expected to be right now. You have a copy of the book there as well. But it ended up being part of my life purpose, if you want to put it that way, and make a difference. We're making a difference with it because the more I speak to people about identity theft, is the more we see there's a need and a void. And that's how it all started. Really, it was a fun project. I wasn't concentrating on it, so it took about 18 months to get it from head to print. People kept bugging me and saying, when are we getting a copy? When are we getting a copy? And I was like, no, I'm not doing any more interviews until I actually got the copy. And you have a copy in your hand.
What exactly is identity theft?
Identity theft, my version of identity theft, there's so many versions, definitions of it, is when somebody knowingly do something to someone for money, and it hurts the person. For money or gain. Basically, that's what identity theft is. So there's different versions of identity theft we will chat about a little bit. But typically speaking, the most crucial one we'll talk about is actually taking somebody's true identity over. Becoming that person, living like that person. I'm not going to say sleeping like that person, but working on that person's behalf and name. And as we're all in the media, you all have to, everybody is susceptible to actually being a victim. No one is invincible. You're not invincible. I'm not invincible.
Do you think that identity theft is a real issue for us here in Trinidad and Tobago?
I would go further than that. I would say global. It's global. No one is exempted. No one can hide from identity theft. There are things you can put in place to maybe protect yourself. Be street smart. Like my mom used to say, that gut feeling, that common sense, as we know. But here's a coin, you protect your IDs and you have your ID card. Here we have social insurance number, which is a huge, huge issue because it's like a thumbprint and you can't get it replaced in that sense. We also have driver's license. We have romance board. We have email. There's so many different types of identity theft. I basically put it as let's put it this way. There is some sort of identity issue in every industry, and it was declared the crime of the 21st century in 2009.
What happens or what could happen if your identity is stolen?
The key issue I want to really bring across to people, it's not so much what could happen, is the after fact. There are certain things in place. You just have to be very cautious. If you're going to Facebook and so forth, just be very careful what you put in there because, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. People can put those things together. The issue we have is what happens when you have to prove your innocence. So in other words, after it happens, you have to go now, take your time, money, and energy to actually prove that's not you. And that's the part we want to get across. People here in North America, across the board, in Trinidad, Jamaica, St. Lucia, all the islands, and globally, compared to the Big C, because it's bigger than the drug trade. In the drug trade, you can actually go and trade, purchase drugs. However, identity theft, like someone can buy my ID for, let's say, my social insurance or your ID card, for example, in Trinidad, as we call it, for less than 40 cents in the black market and then sell it for thousands of dollars on demand several times. So that's what the big issue is how do you prove this? We have people working with multiple, we use our social insurance here to work, as you guys do there, and there are multiple people work on the same ID. That's how big it is. It can be scary, is how you deal with it. That's another thing. We're not here to scare people to a certain point, but we want people to be really aware and smart and start asking questions. And as you know, I recently was in Trinidad promoting this, and when we will be back, is we're actually doing a fraud conference late September, October, and we will be doing a book launch as well. And it's scary, but at the same time, we want people to be smart about it and not be lax and relaxed. We're very relaxed here in North America as well. I mean, certainly we have the resources here. You all don't have the resources there to protect you and help you. But just be smart about what you do and what you're seeing. Just don't be so trusting to people.
Small and medium-sized business owners are said to be particularly at risk of identity theft. Why is that?
That's an awesome question, because we have a lot of business owners. See, the thing about business owners, any industry, again, the owner is not present in the daily operation most of the time, whether it be corporations or companies, whether it be small or large businesses or corporations. Again, we have to trust our information to others. So let's say somebody is really ticked off at you. What happens? And it has happened to a few people that's in Mrs. Fraud and You, that they were actually picked on, victimized by former employees to take revenge. So again, with your information, it's open to the public. It's what they do with it. And that's why, again, we have to be very cautious about, what we do, who has access to our personal information in these small businesses as well. Because again, we have embezzlement, we have taxation fraud, and I know a few people here in Canada who've had small business, and that's what happened to them as well. And actually, a few of them, like I said, it's in the book. The story's not in the book, but they have also been victimized multiple times, and that's one of their stories, which we will get to in the other book.
The most obvious form of identity theft might be money stolen from your bank account. But what are some other forms of identity theft that people need to look out for?
Recently, I was in Trinidad, that is. I was actually at a lawyer's office, and there was a girl there who was working there, and we had given her a copy of the book. And I saw her a second time, and I said, what did you learn about the book? What was the one thing stood out? And she said, how to keep her identity. And I said, what do you mean? And she was one of those persons who got a text, I believe, in regards to winning a prize or something. And she took the bait. And she didn't tell anyone. And when she told us, we were like shocked. That's how simple it is. Really and truly. So we also have romance fraud. Now, I don't know if people are so naive to think that the picture that they're seeing on the internet is the picture that they're getting for the romance, because there have been documents. There was this thing here a couple of years back on the media where it ended up being not to disrespect anybody, but a Nigerian gentleman who was pretending to be this gorgeous woman, which happened to be a picture of a model in a magazine. So, and you don't know what's in there. People can change the pictures, and pornography. We just have to be careful what we do and put on all the public sites. So we have investments, we have, like I said, tax fraud, we have phishing, we have smishing, that's what the text is. Everything is trackable. Your computer or your smartphone, I have my BlackBerry. Rob here has a smartphone, and he has more access to his smartphone than I do on my BlackBerry, but it is a mini computer. So make sure you have access to a password and antivirus and so forth on your smartphones or mini computers. So there's so many, it's all the Mrs. Fraud and You. There's too many to talk about today. Kristle.
What are some of the implications of a stolen identity for business owners?
What can happen? Some implications. There's so many things. Like I said, there's embezzlement. That's huge. We also have where people, again, I want people to understand, it's not the business. You cannot protect the business. You have to protect the people in the business. Most of the time, it's the people within the employees, or it's employees victimizing the employer as well. Of course, we probably wouldn't have an employer victimizing employees. But then again, people would use that information. There's so many things can happen. And again, not to get away from it, but we have synopsis in the book in different sections as well. The book is designed as a guideline for you to start asking questions. It's not going to save your life, but just be smart, ask questions. Give me a call. Check out my website. It's www.mrsfordandyu.com, and send me an email. And my email is dianne@mrsfordandyu.com if any questions, and we will guide you what you need to know as well. But at the same time, while I was in Trinidad, actually, we did the book launch. The book signing. We haven't done the book launch yet, and we will be doing that soon. I got lots of questions about, there was a huge impact with families and talking about deeds and so forth. So, I come back to your question. It's not only about the business owner. I know you asked me about the business owner. So the business owner has to protect himself or herself. That's what they have to do. And I have business owners who on Facebook who actually give their date of birth willingly, and they actually expose and give their whole date of birth, including the year. Now, I'm not saying that people won't find it, but it's really protecting yourself. I've known business owners who actually had to prove their innocence, and it actually got them bankrupt, like closing their businesses. I'll tell you a funny story about that. Many years ago when I started Facebook, I was very naive at the time. I put in the wrong month, and I got birthday wishes. And I was like, why is people sending me birthday wishes? Not my birthday. I didn't realize how really people seriously, take it seriously. And I couldn't believe it. So I had to change it to the right date. But I took the year off. It's not that people wouldn't find it, but the fact is, you don't want to give information out. So I go to the business owners who I know as friends and say, I think you should know better than this. So again, it's protecting yourself and your family, and that's where the business owners can be a huge victim. Again, you have to think about security in your business. Here in Canada, we have, you have a fire code. We also have a business code that we have to follow to make sure of the privacy. And there's a huge privacy act in Canada. I know they were looking into that in Trinidad as well. But that's basically what it is, privacy. Because if I come to Win TV and my wallet is out there, I can say I was a possible victim at Win TV. So now the owners of the station was hypothetical have to come and prove and say, no, that's not the case. That's what happens as well. That's how the business owner can become a victim in that sense.
In your book, you also spoke about indirect hits of identity theft. For example, you say that companies are also affected when their employees are impacted by identity theft. Could you explain this a bit?
Production. Let's say loss of production. If I am a victim and I'm in your business, whether it be another employee or someone else victimized me, and I come to work, and there is a story there as well, and I come to work now, I'm bringing my problems and my baggage to work. Am I going to be more productive? No, obviously not. And this is how, as employee affecting a business, that's one part of it as well. And you have to think about the bottom line. That's what it is. The bottom line, I would believe, and coming from a new linguistic program inside of it, an NLP part of it, and also a practitioner there, is that if you sit down with that person and work with that employee, they can become more productive. It does affect the business. It does affect the business owner in that sense.
Businesses collect a lot of data from their customers today. Is it safe to give your information out? As a customer, what should you consider or what should you be aware of before you give your information out to companies? And as a company, what should you be doing to ensure that customer data is safe in your hands?
That is an absolute amazing question. In terms of data, in Canada here, in Ontario particularly, where I am, it's against the law to ask somebody for their social insurance number, which is like your ID card. I know Trinidad probably doesn't have that policy yet. in the terms of actually saying what you can give. Now, here we can refuse to give our social insurance number unless you're going to be hired. So we don't have that information. The funny thing is, I tell you, I go to a lot of events, and some people actually give me their resume. Although I don't have a business to give them, I have an opportunity, but it's not a traditional business. And I have been given resumes on the spot. What am I going to do with the resumes? And they insist. That's how desperate people are, how naive people are in terms of willing to give information. On the other side of that coin is, we're hoping and trusting that who we give this information to will also respect us and have some sort of form of security. Does it always happen? No. Should it happen? Yes. But we have to change that. That's where the privacy law comes in. Again, be careful. Ask the questions why you need this information. You don't need to walk around with your ID card and social insurance and so forth, or social security, if you're not doing banking. There's certain places you should be walking on IDs and certain places you shouldn't. So just be very naive of what it is and where you are and who you're speaking to. And if something seems too good to be true, ask a question. They interview you, you interview them back. I do. I have fun with it.
As you mentioned, people walking around with resumes, my mind instantly went to LinkedIn. That's a fabulous resource for millions of professionals and business people across the world. But is it safe?
People are so willing to give the information out there. We're trusting and hoping that people will use it to the best. But why would you want to put your information out there? People are very desperate and trusting, hoping that somebody will help them. But that's not the way to do it. So if you want to, and then people will complain and say, well, I'm a victim. Well, if you want to willingly give your information out there, think about it. Is it really safe? Do I really want to know everybody to know what my past is all about? To stalk me? No. So again, we have to educate the people and say, okay, just be very smart at what you're doing. Maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, life was so much different. Technology is great. Believe me, it's great. It has its advantages and disadvantages. However, this is 2013, and we have to be very cautious and smart. Everybody in Trinidad has a phone or two, and they're texting, and they're taking pictures, and they're posting their pictures. You go to my Facebook, and you would not see personal information on me in terms of pictures and so on. You can see promotional stuff. However, who know me. I don't need to see other people's information. I really, honestly, I am not interested in finding out what you did last night or what you ate, to a certain extent. Certainly. But if it's in a business promotional part of it, sure, why not? We can have fun with it.
I just want to go back a little bit to when I asked you about how businesses can protect the customer data that they collect. We know that businesses collect data to help them better market their products and services to customers and potential customers. But in the absence of privacy laws here in Trinidad and Tobago, what steps can businesses take to protect the privacy of customer data?
What they can do is they can hire a really good IT person, and you have encrypted and coded passwords where you can secure people information. Does it happen? No, possibly not. Again, there are different things you can do, but they really have to get very good security features set up, and it's going to cost them some money. Some people don't want to invest in it, and they may not want to hear me saying that, but it's true. Because to do that, it's a huge budget. So they will need to, I know Rob and I had a conversation not too long ago about his passwords, how many levels of encryption he has. But again, it's like Fort Knox. You have to make people feel safe and say, you know what? I'm your employer. I'm going to protect you. You have to now say to them, okay, how are you going to protect my information? And it's a question I know will come up maybe after this airing of this show. But I want people to ask that question, because if you don't feel safe where you are in that environment, then something's wrong.
What is a secure password? Can I use my dog's name, my mom's name, my date of birth?
Question, Kristle. Would you use your mom's name, your dog's name, or date of birth as a password? There is statistics on showing the most popular and common types of passwords. And again, date of birth, and mother's maiden name. I have so many passwords. It's not even funny. Sometimes I don't remember half the passwords because I have access to so many sites. Um,
I think that therein lies the problem. We're registered on way too many websites. To have a different password or to have a unique password for each website is a hassle to remember. So what can we do?
it's because some of them I use them more often than others. I have to have it documented in one place. But again, what do you do with those passwords? It depends on the industry you're in as well. But a password should be something that's unique to you. And I mean, it should be, numbers and letters. And there's some websites would ask you to put a character, a symbol, or so forth. But mix it up. Write it down, please, but mix it up. And just be very cautious. And you should be changing your password at least once a month. And if depends on the industry and maybe more frequent than that, but at least once a month, the password. So if I say to Chris, and don't give your passwords to people, don't. I've known people who would pass on their bank card and give their PIN code because they trust the person. Stop being so trusting. Stop it. It's not going to help you because I've known people it has happened too, and they were wiped out. Stop being trusting the people that you meet in the street. In Trinidad, there was a murder was done recently to a friend of mine who used to work with this person's sister and got murdered. She's working foreign affairs, and it was because they had befriended her and became very trusting and know all her daily routines. So again, stop being trusted. That's how we are. We love to talk, we love to gossip, and we love to tell. That's Trinidad. You're welcome, Kristle, and thanks again, everyone. And I will, when I return to Trinidad, we definitely will be in the studio together. And we will be talking about the book launch and the Ford Expo and everything. And again, if you need to get a hold of me, again, it's www.mrsfordandyou.com. And I believe you have a copy of the book there in front of you. And if you need a copy of that, certainly you can contact me. I have copies in Trinidad. We're doing a local print as well for the local business owners. So if you're a business owner out there and you want to be in advertising in the back of Mrs. Ford and you in Trinidad, please let me know.
It's not about the product, it's about how to design a business that doesn't need me to keep raising the capital. In other words, how do you design a business that keeps raising money automatically?